Hello all, this is Raj Singh and today we have important mathematical lesson is called function. We are going to learn about what is a function, how do we express function, how do we evaluate function, what are different type of functions, and what are some tests for the function to occur. So let's go with the lesson. So we'll start with definition of a function on understanding what is a function. So if you want to understand function in very simple terms, then we can call it as a rule. So function is a rule. What? How it is rule? So when we say that a plant, I have a plant, and this is growing. Initially, it is 10 centimeter, and every week is growing 2 centimeter. So this is a kind of a rule. There can be several other examples of the rule. For example, if somebody is saying that convert kilometer to meter, and rule or the function is whatever we want to convert kilometer, we need to multiply with 1000. So for example, to find out how many meters are there in 2 kilometer, the simple answer is 2 times 1000. So that's, we call it a function. So similarly, there are several other examples. So what is essentially we are talking about? So this is my rule, and I am passing certain information. For example, 1 kilometer, and output is meter. So this is a kind of rule. And for example, if you pass 2 kilometer, then output is going to be 2000. If you pass 4 kilometer, then output is going to be 4000 meter. So now, how do we express function? Let's go to expressing function. So there are 4 ways of expressing function. First, in words. Just now we looked at an example where we mentioned that kilometer to meter, if we need to convert, then function is 1000 times kilometer. So that's one way of representing function. Second way of representing function is in expression. So same example, let's look at function of, this is how we write 1000 kilometer. So for every kilometer, whether you call x or we write kilometer, so this is a function of finding out meter, and this is by multiplying 1000 with kilometer, that gives me meter. So that's a function of finding meter. There are different way of representing this. We can write 1000 equal to x. Third way of looking at function is by graph. So suppose a function is there, y is equal to x. This is y-axis, this is x-axis. So this is another type of function expressing y equal to x. There is another way of expressing function is by set notation. So when we mention the 1 2, it leads to 4 5. This is one way of, another way of representing function. So whatever be the function, there is, some people also represent by table. So we can call it input, and this is output. Suppose I am supplying 1, output is 2. I am supplying 2, output is 4. This is another type of representation of the function. Now let's look at how do we evaluate function. So if any function is given, for example, f(x) is equal to x square, this is a function. I want to evaluate it for x is equal to 2. So f2 is going to be 2 square. Just we need to replace x with this number, and whatever value comes, this is. Similarly, if you want to evaluate for x is equal to 4, then f4, so 4 square, that is 16. This is how we should evaluate. Now let's look at another concept, which is what is domain and range of a function. So domain, whatever values we can put in place of this x, that is called domain. Domain is set of values, set of input values, and range. Range is nothing but simply what is the final value is going to happen, output, set of output value. So there are some restrictions based on the function. For example, if a function is defined fx is equal to 1 over x, so in this case, if x value is 0, in that case function is undefined at this stage, because nothing is defined in math which is divisible by 0. So here we can call it domain is not equal to 0. Otherwise all values of x is real number can be expressed. And here range, so this is domain, this range is all real number. So anything we can express is possible here. There can be another expression that range is consisting of real and imaginary numbers. So there are different type of the domain and range. All we need to look at what is the restriction. Sometimes the function will be defined as f equal to x square when x is less than 1, and equal to x square plus 1 when x is greater than equal to 1. So in this case, it's a piecemeal kind of function where depending on the values of x, either we need to use this one or this one. There are different type of functions. So if you look at graphically, some functions are expressed as linear function. This is linear. There are other type of function where like it can be quadratic function, or like there can be function where like we can express like this. So there is one important concept which we need to test in order to call a expression as function. So that concept is that for every value of x, there has to be only one value of this function. There cannot be two values. For example, all these cases, if we express for every value of x, there is only one value of y. But let's look at another example. Let's look at this, x equal to 1. Here I see two values of y, so this is not a function, no function. Similarly, if let's look at expression wise, so if we say y square is equal to x, or y equal to, my function is root of x, so this, if the x value is 9, then y can be plus minus 3. So this not a function, this is not a function. So while evaluating this one, we should look at with this test, and then we can consider if function is actually a function or it's not a function, expression is function or not function. In next video I am going to cover more details about the functions, what are different type of function and how do you graph function. We are going to look at that. Keep watching my channel, and if you like my video, please subscribe to my channel. Thank you. Have a nice day.